Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I'm going to be doing the Try a Chapter Tag Young Adult Thrillers edition. If you watched my video on 2019 reading stats and 2020 reading goals, I said that one of my goals was to read more books from the library and that I already owned. And I have a lot of young adult mysteries and thrillers on my shelf that I bought probably about 5 years ago, maybe even more than that I really knew nothing about them, but I just bought them because I saw them in Barnes & Noble and I thought they looked good, so I got them even though I'd never heard of them before, never heard a review, just based off the cover and the dust jacket, and they've been sitting on my shelf since I got them. I haven't read them, some of them I haven't even thought about. So today for this video, I looked on my shelf, found those young adult mysteries and thrillers that have been sitting there for ages, and I'm going to read the first chapter from each one to decide which one I'm most interested in reading. The one that I choose will be coming back to college with me and will be getting read this semester. Hopefully. Crossing our fingers. As you know, if you've seen my videos before, I'm very bad at setting TBRs, but hopefully I can get at least one, if not more, of these books read in the next few months. I have 6 young adult mysteries here. The first one, The Safest Lies by Megan Miranda. The Assassin Game by Kirsty McKay. Cut Me Free by J.R. Johansson. This one is really dusty, sorry. Vanished by E.E. Cooper. The Girl in the Picture by Alexandra Monnier. And lastly, The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. So today I will be reading the first chapter and the first chapter only of each of these books. I'm just going to start on the top and work my way down, and I will give you a little description of each book and what I thought of the first chapter as I go through, and then at the end I'll pick a winner. So we're going to start with The Safest Lies by Megan Miranda. Alright, so I read the first chapter of book 1, The Safest Lies by Megan Miranda. This book follows Kelsey. Now, Kelsey's mother has not left their home in 17 years because Kelsey's mother was kidnapped, and Kelsey is the product of her assault at the hands of her kidnapper. Therefore, Kelsey has been taught her entire life to be safe and keep a low profile. However, Kelsey gets into a car accident and is rescued by her classmates. Shortly thereafter, her mother goes missing. So it's up to Kelsey and the classmate who saved her from the car wreck, Ryan, to find out where Kelsey's mother went. I have to say, the first chapter of this was very, very boring. I think I would need to read another chapter to see if I'm going to like this or not, because chapter 1 basically follows Kelsey in a normal day in her life, so it is very mundane and nothing really happens. It's not a book that's going to grip you from the first page. I definitely think Megan Miranda could have come up with a better way to start this story because the first chapter was really dull, but it wasn't poorly written, and I know that Megan Miranda has other books that people on BookTube have reviewed very positively. So that gives me hope that this could be a book I end up liking. I checked and it has a 3.86 average rating on Goodreads, which is pretty good. I feel like a lot of these books are going to have very low ratings in probably the 3 to 3.5 range because I bought them years ago with no knowledge of how they're viewed, what kind of reviews they have. I just bought them completely blind. So I feel like this one does have potential, but the first chapter was really boring. Now, the next book that I'm going to try a chapter from, The Assassin Game by Kirsty McKay. Now I read the first chapter from The Assassin Game, and I have to say this is a much more interesting first chapter than The Safest Lies. This book follows our main character, Kate, and Kate wants to become a part of this elite society at her boarding school known as the Assassin's Guild, and every year the Assassin's Guild plays a group game of assassins, the game where one person is the killer and they have to kill off the other players one by one in the hopes that the players will figure out who the killer is, and if you guess correctly, you win. If the killer kills everyone, then they win. However, this particular year, Kate's first year as a new member of the guild, the game of assassins turns all too real when the killer is actually killing people for real. So Kate decides that she has to find out who the killer is before any more of her friends are murdered. This was a more interesting first chapter. It starts when Kate is in her bed and is abducted by members of the guild for her initiation ritual. However, the writing seems very average to me, so I don't know how the writing in this book will be, but it definitely seems like it has a little more action. At least the beginning was more action-packed than The Safest Lies. This actually takes place in Wales, which I did not know until just now when I read the first chapter, and that's really interesting to me because I don't know if I've ever read a young adult book that takes place in Britain, especially not in Wales, which I really don't think I've ever read a book set in Wales. That was really interesting. There was also a line that bothered me where Kate is describing this guy Alex as being a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, and she describes him as not being her type because he looks almost like a member of Hitler Youth. And that to me was such a weird description to use. There are lots of people who have blonde hair and blue eyes, and to say that he looks like a member of the Aryan race was just a really weird comment to me, and I was really deeply bothered by that for some reason. So I'm not sure how the writing on this book is going to be, but the plot I found at least a little more interesting. Up next, I will be reading the first chapter from Cut Me Free by J.R. Johansson. Cut Me Free by J.R. Johansson. I think this was my favorite of the three so far. This follows Charlotte. Now, Charlotte was abused her entire life by her parents. However, she has recently escaped, though her younger brother Sam was not so lucky. Now, going by a new identity, Charlotte discovers a little girl who she thinks is being abused and decides that she wants to save her from the same fate that she herself has suffered. Meanwhile, Charlotte begins receiving letters addressed to Piper, her old name, causing her to realize that someone is onto her. This was the best first chapter that I read so far and the one that I found the most interesting. This book actually takes place in Philadelphia, and before I moved here to Florida, I used to live in the Philadelphia suburbs, so that was pretty cool. So far, this is the book that I most wanted to keep reading and to know more about. I think the first chapter drew me in more so than the others, and though I think they're going to be setting up a romance between Charlotte / Piper and this other character introduced in chapter 1, I don't think it didn't make me roll my eyes or cringe. There actually seems to be a lot of potential here. It is written in the present tense, which is not my favorite. However, it really didn't bother me that much in this instance, so right now this is in the lead. Next, I'm going to read Vanished by E.E. Cooper. Be right back. Before I talk about Vanished, I realized I forgot to mention the ratings on Goodreads for the last two books. The Assassin Game has 3.63 stars, and Cut Me Free, the one that I said was my favorite, has the highest rating, 3.99. This book has a 3.44, and I have to say, this one is my least favorite. I just didn't like it at all. I didn't think the writing was good. I thought it was cliche and a little bit info dumpy, as information will be conveyed in a way that didn't feel very natural. So Vanish is about this girl named Calla, and Calla is in love with her friend Beth. However, the day of her 18th birthday, Beth disappears without a trace, and there are rumors that Beth was romantically involved with their friend Brittany's boyfriend. Calla has no idea where Beth has gone, and Brittany ends up committing suicide. That is when Beth finally reaches out to Calla, and the truth is more than Calla could have ever imagined. Originally, I picked this book up probably about 5 years ago because it has this same-sex relationship in the description. And that was something that was really interesting to me because I don't really read contemporaries, but I like it when thrillers, fantasy, historical fiction, other genres include characters who are LGBTQIA+, even though that's not the center of the story, because the fact of the matter is that the world is diverse and that someone who is gay, their entire life doesn't revolve around them being gay. So I definitely think there should be more diverse characters in other genres. Also, I found out from the first chapter that our main character, Calla, is part Indian, which is interesting, more representation. However, the writing in this is kind of poor, in my opinion. Just reading the first sentence, I found it so cringeworthy. Temptation is a tricky thing. Just ask Eve. That girl got a bad reputation over a single apple. Tossed out of the Garden of Eden because of one teensy bite. Talk about harsh. It's not like she took out the whole tree. Like, that's just... it's cringeworthy. I just didn't like the writing at all. I didn't like the way the characters spoke. It just... it was a real disappointment. I think that it had potential in the premise, but the writing is just not there for me. Also, when I looked it up on Goodreads, not only did it have a pretty low rating, but there's actually a sequel. I thought this was a standalone, and the fact that it is part of a series, that's just not what I want to commit to right now. So honestly, this one is probably just getting unhauled because the first chapter I thought was really bad. Welcome back. I just read the first chapter of The Girl in the Picture. Actually, I read the prologue and the first chapter, so I don't know if that's cheating or not, but that's what I did, and honestly, I'm not super enthralled with this one either. Our main character in this book is Nicole, who is a senior at a prep school who has been in some kind of mysterious accident, leaving her with some kind of facial scar that she's really embarrassed by. It's really not given into detail in the first chapter. I don't know what the extent of this scar is. Is it like a Harry Potter forehead scar? I really don't know. It's not explained. So this boy, Chase, is found dead, and next to his body is a picture of Nicole. You see, Chase was the boyfriend of Nicole's ex-best friend, Lana, and now Nicole finds herself a suspect in Chase's mysterious murder. The book is told in alternating points of view by Nicole and Lana. However, the first bit of this book that I read didn't really grab me in any way. It was very average. The prologue is actually told from Chase's perspective as his spirit leaves his body and is looking down at his dead body, and I really didn't like that. I found it cliche, and I think cliche is just a good way to describe the vibes I'm getting from this book. It has a 3.58 star rating on Goodreads, and I saw that Kayla from Books and Lala left a 2-star review on this book, and she's one of the booktubers that I think I trust the most. And honestly, this wasn't grabbing me from the beginning anyway, so This might get unhauled. I don't strongly dislike as much as I dislike Vanished, so maybe I'll hold on to it for a little while longer, but no burning desire to pick this up. So, last but certainly not least, The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. So far, Cut Me Free is the one to beat. I just finished the first chapter of The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. Honestly, I kind of cheated again, because the first chapter was only 2.5 pages, so I read chapter 2 as well. Sue me, I'm breaking the rules of this challenge. I did like this one. I'm not really sure how to summarize the plot, so I'm just going to read the description from the dust jacket. There are ghosts around every corner in Fayette, Pennsylvania. Tessa left when she was 9 and has been trying ever since not to think about what happened there that last summer. Memories of things so dark will burn themselves into your mind if you let them. Callie never left. She moved to another house so she doesn't have to walk those same halls, but then Callie always was the stronger one. She can handle staring into the faces of her demons, and if she parties hard enough, maybe one day they'll disappear for good. Tessa and Callie have never talked about what they saw that night. After the trial, Callie drifted and Tessa moved, and childhood friends just have a way of losing touch. But ever since she left, Tessa has had questions. Things have never quite added up, and now she has to go back to Fayette, to Wyatt Stokes sitting on death row, to Lori Cawley, Callie's dead cousin, and to the one person who may know the truth. Only the closer Tessa gets to figuring it all out, the closer she gets to a killer, and this time it won't be so easy to run away. Our main character here, Tessa, has moved from Pennsylvania to Florida. Sounds familiar, right? To live with her grandmother. However, she has to go back to her hometown after finding out that her father, who is in prison, is dying of pancreatic cancer. Tessa's former best friend, Callie, still lives in Fayette with her family. However, the two of them have fallen out of touch and do not speak anymore. Apparently, when they were 9 years old, the girls were a witness to a murder that resulted in the death of Callie's cousin Lori, and they were somehow responsible for the man who is currently imprisoned for this crime being found guilty. I thought that the first 2 chapters were interesting. They also introduced the sister of Tessa, and so far we know nothing about her. Other than that, apparently the two of them also have a strained relationship, and I have no idea why, but that was interesting. And I think these first chapters did a good job of setting up the story, and the writing seemed like it was okay. I know that Kara Thomas has other books. Some of them have mixed reviews, but she is a pretty popular young adult mystery writer, so I do think this has promise. The Darkest Corners is currently sitting at a solid 3.8 average rating on Goodreads, and while I enjoyed what little I read of it, I think the one that I enjoyed the most in this video, and which I will be reading soon, is Cut Me Free by J.R. Johansson. This is the one that interested me the most, based solely on the first chapter. It also happens to have the highest rating on Goodreads, which, hey, can't hurt, right? So this is the one I'll be bringing to college, and that I will hopefully be reading very soon. It's also not super long, so I definitely think this is an achievable goal for the near future. Okay, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new bookish videos every single Wednesday, and my social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a splendid rest of your day. Bye, and I hope to see you in the next one.